Well, hello, everyone out there in podcast land. This is the Front Row Network podcast, the podcast for people who actually like movies and TV shows and all things Disney, because this is a new and special episode of our Beyond the Mouse show. And we talk all things Disney on this show. We love it. We love everything about the Disney parks. We love everything about the Disney movies, everything about the Disney characters, just everything about Disney, right? And I've got a great motley crew here with me today. Actually, the same team that was together when I was trounced during the Disney Pixar bracket. So thank you in advance to all of you for being much kinder to me this episode. My name is Craig, and with me, I've got my co-host, Vanessa Ferguson.
I was going to say, you're being a little presumptuous. We may not be that nice.
I would hope that you would be. I mean, there's really no reason to be mean to me. I don't understand.
Never. It's never intentional, and it's certainly not... Oh, sorry. Back to your introduction.
Well, I was going to say Brett Rutherford's next, so go ahead, Brett.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's just... This is a place to express our views, and even Disney people have views that are sometimes different than other Disney people. So, hi, I'm Brett.
Fair enough. And joining us, the Hares. How are you, Donna and Lou?
Hello, we are lovely. Thank you for having us back.
If you were listening to the feed a minute ago, we had some technical issues, by the way, so you might have already heard some of these intros, and that's okay. If you're listening to the podcast version, you're saying, why is he going over this again? I don't care about any of this. Let's get right into the news. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit about some Disney news, just because there's some pressing big issues out there we wanted to talk about. We're not going to spend too much time on that because we're going to dive right into the recent trip that Donna and Lou took to Walt Disney World in June, and we're going to talk to them about maybe some tips and tricks that they came up with, some of the things that went really well for them, some of the things that maybe didn't go so well. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to talk about Disney World. I'm really excited for that conversation. And then the epic battle to end all battles. We have the fan-off between Brett and Lou. Who is the biggest Tangled fan on this podcast? So we're going to talk about Tangled after that. So let's first get into the news. We've been hearing about this now for months, but it's pretty much official at this point. The shareholders for both Disney and Fox recently approved the buyout deal for Disney to purchase 21st Century Fox, mainly the movie properties, but then also some regional sports channels as well. Disney has already agreed that because of some potential antitrust lawsuits, things like that, they will sell off the regional sports right away. So they're not going to hold on to those. We're talking mainly about getting the Fox movie properties into the Disney umbrella. And that means a lot of positive things, particularly for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It means things like the X-Men and Fantastic Four coming home to Marvel. It also means things like Avatar. You know, we just built this wonderful Pandora land of Avatar in the Animal Kingdom, and now that's going to be officially under the Disney umbrella as well. This was a $71.3 billion deal. It was a huge deal. So I want to talk to you all about it quick. Vanessa, what are your thoughts and reactions to the buyout of Fox from Disney?
Yeah, well, kind of what we talked about before was back in the day when we had Alien Encounter, it was because they were trying to really bring in movies into specifically Magic Kingdom Park and make movies a very big focus. That kind of went away. Now I'm wondering if with this buyout, we're getting so many more movies, if that's going to, I don't know, maybe we'll see more of that influence inside the parks. Maybe Hollywood Studios will remain Hollywood Studios and instead of getting a name change. It'll be really interesting to see how these films affect anything in the parks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's just so much additional IP that could be coming into the parks now. And we can see all of that happening really pretty quickly once this deal gets approved. I mean, look at how quickly they've integrated Star Wars into the parks, and they're already building Galaxy's Edge. Now, granted, Star Tours has been there for a long, long time, but Star Wars has such a larger presence in the parks now after the purchase of LucasArts by Disney that it's remarkable to see the quick turnaround that had. So, Brett, what are your thoughts on the buyout of Fox from Disney?
Honestly, I trust Robert Iger, Bob, with He has a wonderful history of acquisitions that have improved both the fan life and the bottom line for Disney. So his since he mastered and made nice with Pixar, that they're part of Disney now, and Marvel and Lucasfilm, and now this. Is there anything he can't do? Can he run for president? Anyway.
Well, there was that rumor, but he's going to be around Disney for a lot longer than 2020 now, I think. So probably not eyeing that presidential run this time.
He has
around.
other things to do.
Lou and Donna, what do you guys think about this this huge deal of Fox coming under the Disney umbrella?
Well, I think as a fan, as a consumer, I think it's exciting in the fact that, like, for all the reasons that you've said, I personally get a little weird about the idea of so much, as you mentioned, Lucasfilm, Marvel, Pixar, all of this falling under the Disney umbrella. You do worry a little bit about power consolidation, and maybe that's just me putting my conspiracy theory hat on, which I'll do in our next item. But I creative voices being funneled under one umbrella is something I'm a little leery about. But in the short term, I do think as long as Disney holds true to what they've been doing, which is giving voices to some really great artists of all of all walks of life, and telling stories that are diverse, if we're going to get more stuff like what Fox was doing with Deadpool and Logan, where you're getting more adult-themed superhero movies, as long as Disney's still on board with that, I'm okay. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with how this affects streaming, because we're Hulu subscribers. Not both. We have the same account.
I was going to say, do you have a separate account? I don't know.
We're really into Hulu.
Yeah. I got that Hulu Dark or something. I don't know. But anyway, it's what that means for streaming, because so much of 20th Century Fox's properties are on the Hulu device. Now, when they're owned by Disney, are they all going to come off of that? And Hulu's just going to kind of be a lot leaner, I guess is the nice word to put it. And you're going to have to now go to the new Disney streaming app to get those shows that you've liked, that Fox owns. I don't know, but in the interim, I think I'm at least intrigued by the possibilities.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. So let's go ahead and talk then about the second news story that we wanted to hit, and that is a pretty controversial thing that happened earlier last week. James Gunn was fired from Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, over some offensive tweets that he made. These tweets were pretty bad. There was a collection of them going around online, a lot of them related to really awful things like pedophilia and joking about rape and things like that. However, there's a caveat to all this. So those tweets were posted basically back from 2008, 2009, up to 2011, 2012. And James Gunn has publicly apologized for all of these tweets in the past. He said, I was someone that was supposed to be, my job was kind of to push the issue, to push the envelope. And so when he came to Disney to direct Guardians of the Galaxy, he had apologized for all those tweets. So this is the second high-profile firing about tweeting that Disney has done in not so many months, with Roseanne being the first. So it's interesting to see the reaction to this was so much different than what it was when Roseanne was fired a couple of weeks ago, or months ago, I guess, at this point. So I'm going to start with you, Lou. I know you wanted to talk about this subject a bit and give us some of your thoughts on it.
I did, and I'm glad you hit on a couple of things that I was going to cover. First of all, I think we need to say right off the bat before, regardless of what our opinions are on the aftermath, the tweets were unacceptable. Even in a joking contest, shock comedians and try to be shocking. He was never a comedian, but he was always someone who was, at the time, doing a lot of more subversive horror films, edgier stuff, which is part of the reason he got hired to do Guardians of the Galaxy, because it was this kind of more subversive comic book. And so he made really bad jokes. really tasteless stuff in an attempt to be shocking. And they're indefensible in that regard. What is defensible, I think, is Disney's decision to hire him after he apologizes, which they did, and they had to have known about those tweets in advance. They're a company that does its homework. So to hire him knowing those things, he apologizes, and then later to fire him because of they resurface because of what many believe to be his outspoken political beliefs against the current administration. He was, these were brought up by two very, people who are the exact opposite. And this is not a political podcast, so we won't get into that. But this was essentially them saying, well, this happened to Roseanne. What are you going to do about this guy? And my response to that is, everybody says Roseanne got fired for a tweet. Roseanne didn't get fired for a tweet. The tweet was the last straw. Mm-hmm. She had spent months saying and doing controversial things. She never backed down off of some of the really offensive stuff she did before her show got rebooted, which you can find. And she did it under the guise of, I'm a comedian, this is what I do. And she didn't back down on it, which fine for her. But she actively made that tweet in 2018. And a company saw it and said, we don't want you associated if this is how you're going to behave in 2018. I think that's a mile away from saying you made tweets 6 years ago. We don't like them now, so we don't want anything to do with you. And my conspiracy theory behind this is similar to Roseanne, that being the final straw. I am curious to know if James Gunn had done anything, if there's some backstage behind the scenes stuff we don't know about. And this was an out for Disney, as it were. I don't know. I'll open it up because I'm give it to some other folks.
Yeah, that's fine. Brett, Vanessa, do you have any comments on this, or you want to weigh in at all? Maybe not. Brett's giving me a look.
I've just done, just because I knew that we were going to be speaking about this, I did just a little bit of research, and I am not comfortable making any more of anything more than an observation that it's unfortunate on all sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Vanessa?
Yeah, it's really disappointing. It's really interesting to hear Lou's perspective, very reasonable perspective too. I'm kind of wondering, I'm in that boat where I'm wondering if there's anything else going on behind the scenes. Maybe there's not. I know sometimes the people that get accused of certain things, they say, oh, he's such a nice guy, and then I had no idea. I don't know. I wish we had more information about this person in regards to the real decision why they were let go. The tweets are just really disappointing. But like you said, they were a really long time ago. So was it a PR move?
No, I'm like going.
Or was it? Sorry, one more thing. I don't know if it's a PR move or if it's something behind the scenes that we're just not aware of. So,
right.
Hey, that Hollywood's really, and I only say that because Hollywood's really weird like that. Hollywood sometimes is very forgiving of certain people, and then also can be really, really mean in the press. So I feel like I just don't know.
Sure.
Well, I'm sorry. Just my little bit on that is that I think in the culture and in the Hollywood culture, especially right now, I think that everyone is trying to be very cognizant of various movements, Me Too and others. And I think even though things happened in the past, they have consequences today. And I think that to ignore things in the past just because it was in the past, even if they've apologized there are some things that are just unacceptable at any time that I think in the past were just sort of put to the side and no one really thought about. And now it's become a genuine concern. And I think Hollywood is, trying to make things right. And in some ways be an example to other businesses here.
Sure. And the thing about it is I agree with what you're saying, Brett, but they hired him knowing that these were out there.
The culture was different
apologized. Now. Yeah, but
the culture is different now.
And I just think that if you're going to hire someone, it's hypocritical then to fire them for the exact same thing.
And here's what I would have liked to have seen happen. And again, this is 2020 hindsight, but knowing, because I think you're both right in a sense that the culture has changed. They hired him, I think, but I think firing him, I don't think solves anything. I think if anything, it was a teachable moment to say, hey, we've all evolved in our thinking very recently. And this culture has evolved and become more aware. And one of the things that you could do instead of saying, well, we're going to fire him from it, is maybe, use this as an example of, he donate his salary to people, to crisis centers, or host screenings for survivors or victims or counselors or whoever. Open yourself up to the culture that's happening and say, hey, I've evolved, because I think we all have the capacity to grow and evolve. And if we don't give people the ability to show that they've grown, we just say, nope, you're done, because of something, an action, poor judgment in the past, then all we're just going to do is keep shutting people out who, I think, like I said, James Gunn has apologized for this. And in recent years, he's being supported by his cast that you're seeing on Twitter, as somebody who they think is, doesn't necessarily, that these words don't match the person that they know. And I know that this just gets so thorny, but I think there could have been a way to acknowledge this issue and make things better than firing him.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up because I don't want to spend too much time on this, only to say that what'll be interesting, and I haven't read enough into it, is to know the future of Sean Gunn in the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. He is James Gunn's brother. He also played Kraglin in Guardians and Guardians 2, a character that was really a pretty big deal in Guardians 2. In addition to all that, he did all the motion capture for Rocket Raccoon. So he is heavily involved in Guardians of the Galaxy. And honestly, I just haven't done my research enough to know yet exactly what his fate will be in the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. The other thing I wanted to mention is that a lot of people are saying, well, where's Guardians going to go from here? And obviously, probably best case scenario would have been that they would have had James Gunn at the head. I will tell you that the reason why Guardians of the Galaxy was made, a lot of the backstory is that a writer in the Marvel Studios came up with this idea, and her name was Nicole Perlman. And Nicole Perlman basically wrote this story. Then James Gunn went back in and rewrote some certain parts of it, but the bones of Guardians 1 is by her. So it shows you that this can live on. This franchise can work without James Gunn there. Whether or not it comes out in 2020, who knows at this point, because I'm sure that they won't be using his script. I can't imagine that they'd be using his script if they fired him now as a director as well. So let's get on to cheerier topics, though. So back in June, the Hares went to Disney World, and you guys did Disney right. I'll let you explain it, but you were telling me where you were staying and where you were going. You had somebody help you, not us, by the way. Weird. Somebody help you plan everything.
There are other people?
There are other Disney people out there. Go figure.
That place is kind of popular.
But I want to just open the floor up to you two first for some general observations about your trip and about your experience, and then maybe we'll throw some questions at you as you go along. So the two of you have the floor.
Where to begin?
Well, like you said, I think one of the things that because we are, and you've mentioned this on your podcast before, there's a lot of people who are, maybe first timers or only timers. And I think we were certainly of the only timer mindset when we planned. And we're very big planners.
Yes. I think that's in our favor as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're big on planning and making sure we like to know what we're doing. We like to know what's going on. And, we also wanted to make sure we hit everything that we could. So fortunately, yes, we have a lovely friend of ours who is maybe as obsessed with Disney as you good folks are.
Balderdash.
But she was more than willing to help plan our experience. She used the software Trip Planning, I believe it's called, or is that the exact name?
So,
Is it touring plans?
Touring plans.
Plans,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And was able to kind of map out an itinerary for us. Now, if you are an itinerary type,
it was fantastic. I am a person that wants every second accounted for. We even had like the bathrooms accounted for, like how long it would
great.
walk. We would walk and the duration of the
my
walk
God.
and where the restrooms would be. I mean, it was
Wow.
it was anal retentive and it was glorious.
It was lovely. I ate it up.
Yeah. But
Well, I'm going to stop you right there just
Yeah,
because
'cause we're on
as
bathrooms.
we go,
There's better things than
we'll
bathrooms.
have so many questions, I'm sure. But one of the first complaints that you hear about Disney is that it takes too much planning. So what's your thoughts with that? Now, granted, you had some help, but did you enjoy the planning? Was it onerous, or did you for me personally, it's like part of the trip for me. And I just booked my fast passes and I'm super pumped about it, but I'll talk about that later. But what do you think about the planning?
as someone who had never been before, it was nice to look at everything and kind of think, oh, I might like to try this. I might like to do that. And I think if we were to ever go again, I think we're still both pro planning.
Yes.
Now that we know
100%.
Yeah. Now that we know what we would do and what we wouldn't do the second time, I think we'd absolutely plan it out. And I don't think you just have to remove the weight of it because of the weight on your shoulders of this has to be perfect. And because I think that more than anything will make it seem less fun.
Yeah. Because leading up into the trip, Lou was trying to pass a kidney stone and I had a pinched nerve and lost feeling in my finger. And we're like, oh no, this is going to be the worst trip ever. Mm-hmm. There's so much pressure to be had that this had to be a fantastic trip.
Mm-hmm. And I think if you remove that pressure, the planning, I agree, Craig. I think it becomes part of the trip because instead of now this 3-day event, it was, we're talking about this Disney. Our Disney trip was part of our lives for months, really. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I like
trip.
about it.
Oh, wow.
It was. I'd never been in my life.
I've been twice. But I don't remember the first time. I was like 5, 6. And I remember a hotel not on the park that looked over at an Arby's restaurant.
What are you guys
so I remember
thinking? I'm having heart palpitations. First trip, I don't remember going since I was 5. Who are you people?
And then the second trip, I remember that one I was in 6th grade. We stayed at the Contemporary, which kind of influenced a lot of what we did this trip.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So that's how you ended up, spoiler alert, at the Contemporary. So do you want to talk about that a bit? Because I've never stayed in a deluxe hotel. I'm in an interesting place because this trip I'm staying in a Value, kind of a beefed up Value at the Art of Animation in a family suite. But talk about that deluxe experience. Was it a cool hotel? Did it live up to your expectations?
It was beautiful.
It really was gorgeous. Yeah.
Even the elevator going up has Mickey Mouse and all the characters telling you what floor you're getting on and off of. Mm-hmm. And it was just beautiful. They had a lot of surprise perks. At night, we never made it, but they had a campfire and you could do s'mores. And then that happened right before they would have a movie that they would show in the middle of the.
Once the sun set, they were shown
beside the pool. They would show this movie and treat you with popcorn and soda and candy and all sorts of stuff until fireworks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you could see the fireworks from the balcony, and then there was the
delightful weird light show that happens in the lake there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
well, it's a classic. It's been around since pretty much the beginning, since about the first year.
And
Walt
it looks
Disney World.
Yeah, I remembered it from 1989 when I went. I was like, this is the weird light show that happened outside.
Synthesizers, they're no thing.
Yeah. Once you see everything projected on the castle at
It's-
Disney, the boat, the lighting.
The light
Aw.
show just loses it.
It loses a little luster.
It's kitschy fun. Remember that if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have anything else.
Yes.
Meanwhile, I'm thinking, please be quiet. You're going to wake up the child we just put to bed. Shh, shh.
So, real quickly, can you kind of tell us what your itinerary was? I'm assuming you went to all 4 parks and you stayed at the Contemporary. Was there anything, special that you did, or what was kind of the highlights of the trip?
So we didn't hit all 4. We were there for 3 full days. We did Epcot on day 1. Day 2, we split between Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom, and then day 3 was all Magic Kingdom. I think our goal, because our daughter is now 8 and loves princesses, our goal was to hit as much princess stuff as we could, that we could
While
cram
princesses were still magical.
before she was over it. So that was kind of what we based a lot of our planning around, to make
that
sure.
and eating.
Yes.
Because we wanted to make sure that we used our deluxe dining plan to its fullest. So we tried to book all the most expensive restaurants.
Yes.
Mhm.
We
Mm-hmm.
ate.
Yeah.
And
Oh, you ate.
ate.
I'm sure you ate.
And
so,
ate.
where?
Mhm.
So, what was your favorite?
Our first night there, we were at the California Grill, and I think
Oh,
that was
okay.
by far my
Mhm.
favorite experience.
Yeah, that was the peak. It was, but everything was great. But I think that was certainly,
That was our welcome, I think.
yes, that
We had a really rough trip getting to Disney.
Yeah.
Like our car broke down, and we had to rent the most expensive rental car to get to the
Oh.
airport, and
Gross.
it was just
yeah, there were
an ordeal.
yes
Challenges.
yes.
Mhm.
So after we got to the hotel and were able to eat that fabulous feel,
Yeah,
it started to
became
feel
magical
magical
for the
yeah.
rest of the time. Yeah.
Mhm.
Before then, I was a hot mess, and I was
Yeah.
not very happy.
Yeah, so we did that. We did Chippendales, Harvest Grill. We did. We ate in France at Epcot at the
Chateau something.
Chef de France.
There
yes,
we go.
we ate
Chef
there.
de France.
Dinner.
Did you
that-
see Remy? Did you see Remy there?
We did not see Remy there.
Oh,
no.
okay. That's okay. I don't know if they still do that. But...
And then we ate that night was at the
At the
Seas.
Seas.
And then the next day was breakfast was where was breakfast?
Breakfast was at our hotel at the
Character?
Wave.
The Wave.
Oh, the Wave. Yeah.
And
Yes.
then we had lunch at the prime time
50s, yes.
prime
Oh,
time in
yeah.
Hollywood Studios. And then
Mhm.
that night we were at the Lady and the Tramp's place.
Yes.
Tony's.
Tony's.
And
Yeah.
then the
Oh,
next
the Magic-
day was the princess breakfast, which was great.
Yeah, in Cinderella's castle.
And then lunch
Wow.
was a piecemeal together between Be Our Guest and Gaston's Tavern.
Yes.
Nice.
And
You
then
guys
we
did eat.
ate a lot.
Yeah.
And then that night we went to the Crystal Palace. And then the morning of when we were leaving, we went to the character breakfast, Chef Mickey's.
Yes.
Oh, very cool.
You
So
did a
I've got a
great
bunch
job.
of questions about a bunch of those. But
Okay.
number one being, I haven't been to Royal Table since I was a kid. I think that when my grandparents took us, they took us to Royal Table. We got it for this trip for our first time bringing our son. Thoughts on Royal Table? Was it a fun experience? Was the
It
food
was
good? Was it
amazing.
You know,
The food was great.
The food everywhere.
The food everywhere was great, but they
You
had
start with these wonderful pastries and then you order more food.
Yeah.
That just seemed really weird. It's like, you're going to give us all these delicious, this was breakfast and
Right.
now we have to order
Yeah.
more.
Mhm. What would be like considered a continental breakfast was like their appetizer. and then we had these I had a quiche there that was really delicious. There was mimosas.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's part of the deluxe dining
that was-
plan.
yeah,
is
that's
you
part
get
of
an
it.
alcoholic beverage at
yeah,
pretty much any meal you
which
want.
I was a fan.
I can imagine.
Of,
I can
of
imagine.
the alcoholic beverage, but yeah, and then the experience. They announce all the princesses in. There's a fanfare. Then they each enter individually, and then they make the rounds.
And they have specific tables that they go to
Mhm.
so that you're not going to get skipped. And
right.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so we stayed long enough to know all of the princesses that were going to be there were there. We're out. They all hit the table.
And then
we
they
got
get
the
this
picture.
special little wand, and they get a wishing star. And for the guys, they got like a sword, and they got knighted, and it was cute.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
It was a fantastic, well worth. That's a 2 dining credit, but that was absolutely worth it. And one of the highlights of the trip.
That's awesome. Vanessa or Brett, either you have dining questions, or we can move on to the next area of their trip.
It seems like they did a great job. So
It
congratulations.
does seem like they did a great job.
We did good, yeah.
I took Anna to California Grill for our anniversary, one of our first trips, and all we got was the sushi because that's like all we could afford because we weren't on the dining plan. And so we just got like appetizers and split them, but it was incredible. So that's really cool. So let's talk about your days in the park, some of the rides or attractions that you went on, some of the things that you liked. And you already mentioned it earlier. You said maybe some of the things that you wouldn't do again. So let's talk some about your experiences in the parks with a child for the first time and how that went.
Well, I think the big thing for us is, as we said, we were really focused on doing princessy stuff.
And getting as much in as humanly possible.
Yes. So I think we tried to hit as much as we could, but we also wanted to make sure she didn't miss out on stuff. So we did all the princess meet and greets that we could, and we did all of the live shows. And I think if we went back, we probably wouldn't hit each one of them again. We kind of tell our daughter, okay, what was your favorite? What do you absolutely want to do? Because I think there were...
well, she likes rides as well.
Right. So that kind of got us away from rides a little bit, but more to give her those experiences.
Sure.
So I think for a first time, it was great. I think if we did something different next time, we'd pair back on this. Probably the one that would be the easiest to get rid of. And I'm speaking for my wife on this, but that would be Beauty and the Beast. For only because it's outdoors.
It was hot.
Yeah.
I went from eating like homemade pot roast to sitting out.
Oh yeah, because you're
in the sun.
Yeah.
And like boiled for 20 minutes with my fast pass. I think we had a fast pass to that because we couldn't find anything else to use it for at Hollywood Studios because they only let you in at timed events. So we're sweating in the sun only to sit outside. It was just hot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So unless you...
So was this in Florida?
Yes. And it was
in
early
summer. No.
Yes, and it was early June, so I definitely get now why people like to go in October. But it was that would be a couple of things that the two things I don't think we considered. Yeah, one was going to the 50s diner for lunch where they serve you like meatloaf and gravy, heavy foods in the middle of the day.
And it was fun.
Yeah, we might do that for that's maybe more of a dinner than it is a lunch, I think. And then just being outside for Beauty and the Beast. Now I say that having not done that because I got to go on the rock and roller coaster.
I would have loved the rock and roller coaster, but I got to sweat.
Yeah.
Nice. So. Well, that came up when we were planning our trip was, do you do 50s primetime with all this pot roast and stuff like that? But it's one of Anna's favorite places. And so the compromise is that because we're not on the dining plan this time, we're just going to like split a meal and then probably get like PB&J milkshakes or whatever and still feel just like disgusting and awful once we leave. But it's worth it. Right. So, so talk to me a bit about some of the rides that you went on and in particular, what were your daughter's favorite ride? And then also what you guys thought of your favorite rides.
Well, we started off really strong because we had our first day in Epcot was the first day there. Mm-hmm. And we started off with that harvest breakfast or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
And then so we got to go to Soarin' before the park really officially opened. So we were there when it opened. We were first in line and got the front row. Mm-hmm. And that was just amazing.
That was outstanding. And that would definitely be something we would do again, is to make sure that your breakfasts were always inside the park. near something you wanted to do right off the bat, because we didn't have to use a fast pass for that ride.
Yeah,
Right.
We,
Craig.
we got our
That was one of
breakfast.
my tips.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. So our breakfast was done, early enough, and it was weird. We were walking. I was like, is this ride
Are we
broken?
allowed to come here?
No one
Yeah.
else is here. Did we do something wrong? And then they're like, nope.
You did
just
something right.
Yes. It
Very
was,
right.
yeah. And that ride is amazing. I think
the fact that you can smell the elephants and
Mhm.
the fact there was smell.
Yeah. The whole sets are like, the breeze was fun, but the smell of everything. That ride's incredible. All three of us. I think that was
a good ride to start.
Good ride for all three of us to love. And she had a great time on the mine train. Was one of her.
She loved that.
Yeah,
one.
she loved. Yeah,
The Big Thunder or the Seven Dwarfs.
Seven Dwarfs. The mine train. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did Big Thunder, and that was fun too.
Yeah.
That was the longest wait that we had, and that was 40.
An unplanned ride. That happened right after me sweating at the Beauty and the Beast show.
But it was only about a 45 minute wait. So the app was
in
great.
the summer. Yeah.
And that's in the summer. And so, the planning worked out so well that we had this, we're like, oh, we hit everything and we hit our fast passes just right, that we're like, oh, we do have some time.
And we could have gotten a fast pass for Thunder Mountain, but Lou was slow on the uptake on that one.
Yeah, I did. I missed it.
You missed that one.
I was texting with Craig at the time. I'm like, do we have time to make it to there after our dinner res? And he's like, oh, that's plenty of time to walk. And then when I went back, it was gone. So lesson learned.
I'm sorry.
Just jump on it, folks. Just
grab the fast pass and then text Craig after that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very cool. Yeah. So let me see if is there any other attractions that you want to talk about, or Brett, you had a question for them?
I had a question. I'm just wondering, because when I've helped other people that are going on vacations, especially people with children, I'm thinking that if it's within your budget, staying in a Magic Kingdom resort is so time saving. It's such a time saving measure because you're on the monorail system, and especially with little ones, Magic Kingdom generally is usually where you are going to spend a lot of your time. So know that you have saved a lot of time. So again, your planning was brilliant. So just kudos.
Thank you. Thank you. We're getting gold stars. And that did help a lot, being at the Contemporary where there's a monorail, and we could walk, or you could walk to Magic Kingdom. Yeah,
so we could go through their own little separate security screening.
Yeah, that would have been nice too. And I was going to butt in when you're talking about the breakfast thing. One of the cool things about that too is that you really don't have anybody else in the park, so you get some killer pictures there as well. So, which is really, really cool. Did you guys do the Memory Maker?
Yes,
we did. It was amazing.
We
were floored that they can superimpose like the Tinkerbell on our daughter's hands. It was just such a surprise, and it was fun because they would never tell you what they're going to superimpose and just what face to make, and then getting 30 minutes on our phone looking at the app and seeing all the pictures.
I think I've said it about 60 times on this podcast. My go-to souvenir, the best value souvenir you can buy at Disney World to me is Memory Maker, because like you get some crazy shots, and they're all over the place. It's not like you're like, oh man, I got to go find this photographer so I get my use out of this. Like there's like one PhotoPass photographer per every 10 feet at Disney World. It gets to the point that you're walking and you see a guy and you're like, oh, I guess let's just go ahead and get our picture. We're here, instead of
we have a lot of pictures. We're like, oh yeah, PhotoPass. Okay,
sure,
let's stop here.
And that's the other thing is we got way more photos than I think we would have had we just left it to our own devices, and so I agree.
Wanting to meet the princesses too, like they take the pictures of you walking in and seeing their face and talking, and just you get all of these pictures,
right? And so that's, as a parent, all parents kind of know this. Once you have a kid, you're seeing a lot of your life through a camera because you're always taking pictures of them, and so it was really cool to be able to experience that with her, as opposed to watching her experience it through a camera and making sure, oh, I hope I got the shot, So I can't recommend that enough. And then later on, you can go like to we got a book on Shutterfly and got all the pictures in a nice Disney photo book that they had that you can get. To. Shout out to Shutterfly.
What was the longest you had to wait in line for outside of the princesses or characters, what was the longest you had to wait in line for a photo pass picture?
We really
I don't think
seconds.
We did at all. Yeah.
Maybe 2 minutes at the longest.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think we got in line behind like one family or two, and they were like, "Yeah, when you're done." And it was really mostly because of the size of the family, but it wasn't. Yeah, there was no lines for getting a picture taken.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and we really even lucked out on the character stuff too, because I don't think we had to wait long for the character meet and greets.
We hit Rapunzel and Tiana super quick.
Mm-hmm.
Belle, there wasn't that long of a line.
Right.
Did you say? Did you see? I'm sorry. Tangled was there?
We did. You better believe if we were seeing one princess there, we were seeing
and we
Rapunzel.
went to her bathroom.
Yeah.
So
Rapunzel.
You said restrooms weren't what you should be talking about, but the Rapunzel bathroom was pretty cool.
They're amazing. They're amazing with the wanted posters and all of that. Oh my gosh.
And that was something I did want to point out to people who'd never been, or the thing I was really impressed with was just not the bathroom, the bathroom. In general, just the attention to detail in terms of the production value and the scope of everything. My frame of reference was Six Flags, which no disrespect to Six Flags, and it's a great park, but just it's not the same. It's not the same. The atmosphere, the ambiance, and the detail that is taken in. I mean, they put more effort into a bathroom than some movies do on their sets. It's so that was something that really kind of blew me away.
Absolutely. Final thoughts before we wrap up and start talking about a movie that you guys all love, and I love too, but any final thoughts on tips or tricks or anything you want to say about your trip?
The fireworks are not fireworks, because I was under the assumption we were just seeing fireworks, because
they are not
in
just
1989
fireworks.
They were just fireworks. But no, you have to see the castle. Like it's a big part of the display, and so get where you can see that.
And stay for them. Don't just leave, right? Because a lot of people are like, well, and I mean, it's a good way to beat crowds, I guess, if you want to get out before that. But there is something just truly magical about all those shows. And just exciting to be able to watch those. Lou, what do you have?
I thought the Fast Pass system was great. I said it there, and it's class warfare meets cutsies. Because when you have it, you feel like a king, and you're just walking through. But when you don't have it and you're in line and you're watching all these people, you want to get to this ride and then you just watch all these people. It's like, I want to start a revolution. I want an uprising.
But the Fast Pass is available to everyone though. So
yes,
it's
free.
It's not like yes, and it's free, and it's not like other parks in Orlando.
I do think that Vanessa called it bougie, though. You just feel super bougie when you walk by.
I do. I feel very bougie, especially in Pandora, because the queue for the Navi River journey is very much like villagey, and I feel like, the peasants are in line. I will continue through to the ride. Goodbye.
But you don't. But usually, the Fast Pass lines aren't as tricked out as the others. So if you do have to wait with the people, as I like to say, there are things to keep you amused and in the attraction. And now there's even apps. There's the Disney Play,
the Disney Play app,
which is new.
Absolutely.
One Fast Pass that did not work out right was the Jungle Cruise. We got in line, and the line for the Fast Pass was actually looked longer than the other standard entrance. And we had to wait like maybe 30 minutes.
We did. That was
the Fast Pass line.
Yeah, that was the only Fast Pass where we didn't just get to walk in and pretty much get on the ride.
Wait.
And I attribute that to, it was the only thing we could get, and it was at
right before
8. It was right before fireworks. So I'm sure that there were plenty of people like us who were like, we can get this Fast Pass, hit one last ride before we get to fireworks. And of course, everybody who ordered the fast pass at that time, I'm sure, showed up thinking the same thing. So if maybe my one hint is, if you are planning on doing fireworks, you know, time that out a little better.
But again, we thought we were just seeing fireworks,
Right.
where any place you can see the sky
Was good,
yeah.
right? But, so you want to make sure you have a good spot for fireworks. We probably would have just called it a
Maybe
day.
done it a little different,
right?
And did you have to sit in the back of the boat when you got on the Jungle Cruise because of the way the fast pass line emerges, or were you?
I think
we were on the
like the side of it.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
I think that's just. Yeah, I think that's just how they load the boats. I don't.
Yeah,
think
they always load. They load the regular line first into the front of the boat. At least my last 3 experiences, I've been in the back of the boat, which is fine.
Last 3,
but yes, last 3. And the when I get in the back of the boat, you can't always pick up on the mannerisms or the jokes as well as you could.
And you can't see the gesture, backside of water.
Exactly.
Which I do every time I hear that now, thanks to Vanessa. The backside of water.
Well, thank you guys so much for sharing your trip with us, and we could talk about it for the next 6 hours if we wanted to. I will say that I'm really excited about going, taking a kiddo for the first time, and really amped about that. This past week, I did my Fast Pass selections, and I'll spend 1 minute on that and then jump into the movie. But the system was down, so it was kind of a crazy morning. Tim and I, we split duties. He was going to get some of the later in the week Fast Passes. Thank you, pro tip, Brett Rutherford, on that one. And then I was going to do some of the earlier in the week. But then the system was just not responding, that it wouldn't allow us to select our dates. All this, it seemed like a system-wide outage, and not just something weird that happened to our apps or like that. So it took about an hour. But at one point in our week-long vacation, we had Flight of Passage 3 times. We decided to drop it once to pick up Navi River Journey because that's something that my son can go on in addition to us. But we got everything we possibly could have wanted in the morning, like we had talked about in the tips episode, and just really excited about all of that. But it also makes me wonder what the attendance is going to be like in the fall. So that's something that maybe we'll talk about on a future episode, because even in the summer, the wait times haven't been that terrible. As you guys mentioned, now you had it right. You had it planned out very well, but you didn't have to wait unless you chose to wait for very long. So that's great. So
Can I ask a question, Craig?
Yeah.
Did you use your mobile app and your laptop computer? Okay.
Yeah, and it wasn't working properly. And then Tim was on a computer and on the mobile app as well. And it just was like it would either not load, or it would load up the calendar dates, and then the parks would be blacked out. And then it would allow us to book a ride, and then it would shut us out of the system. So it took about an hour. It was super frustrating, but we held in there. And like I said, we got Frozen Ever After first thing in the morning. We got Flight of Passage a bunch. We have Peter Pan and all that stuff, like the stuff that we really were very much wanting to get to experience. We got all those rides, which was great. So let's talk about Rapunzel and Tangled. Are you guys ready for this?
I feel like we need a "Are you ready to rumble?"
All right, so Brett and Lou, you're going to one of you will enter, two of you will enter, and one of you will leave this podcast. No, but let's talk about this film. This is a film that, believe it or not, I have only seen twice. So I am not going to be necessarily the person speaking the most about this film. I really enjoy it. I'll give you my first impression of it first, because I almost had a second first impression this week when I watched it the second time. It's such a wonderful story. And what's interesting to me is that it reminds me of those classic Disney princesses more than anything else that's been made in recent years, because you get a little bit of Aurora in there. You get a little bit of Snow White. You get a little bit of even some of those 90s princesses like Ariel and Belle. Rapunzel is a great character, taking one of those fairy tales that we all know and kind of turning it on its head just a little bit, giving it a bit of a Disney touch. And I really enjoyed this film quite a bit. I'm excited to hear what all of you have to say about it. So, Lou and Donna, you're our guests, so I'll let you go first. Donna, you want to tell us your first impression of Tangled?
Well,
You've seen it probably more than twice.
Probably. The first impression was we had actually rented it from the library, and so there was a scratch. And so we missed the whole portion about how she was stolen as a child. And so we're watching it, and my daughter was like 3 at the time, and we're watching it not knowing that this really wasn't her mother. And then we get, and it skips a little bit more, and we're at the end, and Mother Gothel, she's got the knife out going to cut Flynn, and we're like, oh, she's 3. Let's try and fast forward through this little bit.
That's hilarious.
It was very intense. But no, after watching it again with an older child, it's definitely a lovely movie.
Well, what's interesting about that, you mentioned that it's intense. This is the first non-rated G Disney princess movie. It was rated PG.
Really?
First animated film by Disney to receive a PG rating.
Yeah, it's probably for the knifing.
Yeah, it's probably for the knifing, and there's
blood.
There is a little side of blood, and it's slapstick violence, but I think there's more violence than your typical princess movie. There's a lot of, people get hit in the face with frying pans, a little bit more slapstick in it, and but that makes sense.
Yeah.
I would say it's on par almost with Hercules there, but I wonder if it's the blood that put it over the top to get that PG rating as opposed to the G. But Lou, what are your first impressions?
Well, as we've mentioned, our daughter is all about princesses, and for a while she watched a Disney princess movie. She gets, her screen time every day was a Disney princess movie. And so it felt like it was months. Every morning it was a different Disney princess movie. So we've seen all of them,
or heard them in the background,
watched them in and out. And so I think the first time we watched it, I watched it all the way through, and I just remember I thought it was really refreshing, having watched all of the previous Disney princess movies, just in how fun the movie is. Mm-hmm. I think if you can make a criticism about a lot of the Disney princess movies, is that sometimes they veer a little bit more towards the epic, the love story or the drama, which is weird to say about, cartoons. But so to have one that had a princess story that was actually kind of fun and funny, which we'll get into, but that's more of an adventure. It's the one that's like, okay, my daughter had this in rotation. I was like, this would be the one that I, felt I could continuously sit down to watch. Absolutely.
Vanessa, I'll go to you next.
I really like it. I enjoy the humor. It was not when the first time I watched it, I thought it was cute, but it wasn't anything. That was in my college Disney phase where I wasn't really into Disney, but I appreciated it. So I wasn't obsessed as I should have been. So it wasn't my favorite film, but I really like it. I think what strikes me the most is Mother Gothel, I think is her name. I have a list over here.
Yeah.
When she's some of the things she's singing, I think, and I'm going to make an assumption for every female youth that has a mom, that some of the things she says are like, they make you feel a little trigger. Like, like the mom trying to be helpful, but saying like really horrible things. Like, what does she say? Plus, I think getting kind of chubby. I'm just saying, 'cause I love you. Yes. Like, oh my gosh. Yes. I heard that. I was like, oh, triggered. So like, and I think all moms want to just be really helpful. So like those little moments, I thought it was really funny because you kind of can see her being a mom to this kid, but in a more negative way. It's just, I don't know, I thought that was really funny, that you could make a villain humorous in that way.
Absolutely. Brett, your first impressions, your first thoughts.
Well, I thought it was a beautiful film. and also I really liked I liked that it was a princess story, and then it was also an adventure story for both for Rapunzel and Flynn Rider, aka
Eugene something.
Eugene, sorry.
That's a first point on the board for me.
Yeah, so I
Wonderloo.
like that. And it also back to voice casting. Prior to Rapunzel, I was not a huge fan of the Donna Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
And
how dare you?
And it was because of her Broadway stuff, and it was just her reputation and for her certain performances in Passion and also The King and I are a little darker than they necessarily need to be, and so in Tangled she was able to funnel all of the wonderful things that I'm sure that they were videotaping her, there were all these nuances, and she could be really, really, really big in a theatrical way, and I think she brought everything to her character. And even watching it again and again, I'm like going, the subtle things that you just know are, the animator just watching her and going, that's good, let's do that. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed that. Yeah. And I was a fan of Chuck, so
Zachary
Levi, and that he sang. I'm like going, yay, dude. So, and
well, he's done a lot of Broadway since Chuck and all of that now as well, right?
He's done 2 shows.
Well, to me, that's a lot. That's a lot more than I
did that. Well, but yeah. So, but apparently, So I went to the D23 Expo last year.
Okay.
Clink. Yeah. And went to the Tangled Ever After panel, and so it was really interesting to watch all of this cast and the cast of the animated TV series. Anyway, but where was I going? Oh yeah. Anyway, how did I? Well, I just brought that in, and then I lost my train of thought.
You just wanted to work D23, and again, you
just wanted to talk about D23 is all.
I want to point out with Craig, I'm kind of surprised that this isn't one of your favorite films, because one of the directors is also director for Zootopia. So,
absolutely.
Where's your loyalty?
I do enjoy me some Zootopia much more than Brett does. That is for sure.
Clearly, well, that's your D23 mention then. Okay, fine, drink.
Okay. So,
sorry. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So
let's talk a little bit about some of our favorite scenes, because I think that we can agree that Mandy Moore and Zachary Levi do a stellar job in their voice casting, and even Donna Murphy, as Brett said, does a stellar job.
Amazing.
And we can talk about them more, but in an animated film, it's so hard to talk about the acting without just talking about some of our favorite scenes. And so we will let's start. Let's kind of go in reverse order. Brett, you want to talk about one of your favorite scenes that you enjoyed in this film? You said it was a beautiful film.
Actually, when I was watching it in preparation for this get-together, hangout, there was a time I needed to go get a little something to a little Mountain Dew beverage or something like that, and I paused, the film, and I'm like going, oh my gosh, that's gorgeous. It's so beautiful. So there were a couple of occasions that, again, I just kind of, let's just try that. Let's just give it a little pause to look at it and really enjoy, a paused moment in, a 90-minute or so film. And everything is it was just so well done and so gorgeous. So I enjoyed that. But, okay, what? I don't want to take this. Well, anyway, I think it's other people's favorite, but the lantern scene.
Okay.
I'm like going, kind of.
I think some people probably enjoyed that scene.
They enjoyed that, and the tavern scene. What's the name of the tavern?
The
Snuggly
Duckling.
The Snuggly Duckling. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Those are 2 of my favorites, and the Donna Murphy scenes. And a couple of other things.
So
okay,
the whole
you need
movie.
to calm down. You need to calm down.
Yeah, you got to leave a couple for us to mention.
Okay, go ahead. That's why you went to me first. I'm sorry. I'm a closer.
I'm a closer. That's why you drink all the coffee. Vanessa.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lou. I'm glad someone laughed at that.
My favorite scene is when she meets the horse. Is it Maximus? Is that the name of it? And this horse is taking on the mannerisms of like a militant soldier until he meets Rapunzel, and then he's taking on these wasn't like almost like a dog mannerism. He's like, oh yeah, it's so rough. I love that. I love how they can, and that just the fact that that character is so expressive and so important in the conclusion without having any lines is just awesome to me. So for that, I really like that. I also want to say that Brad Garrett in the Snuggly Duckling scene. Well, as soon as I heard his voice, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is the guy from Everybody Loves Raymond." I love that guy. So I was so thrilled that he was a character in the movie as well.
It's a deep cut Arrested Development joke, but Jeffrey Tambor famously lost the Emmy a Best Supporting Actor to Brad Garrett for Everybody Loves Raymond, and so they wrote a joke in about George Bluth not making about how funny he is, and Jason Bateman makes the joke of, we know you're regular Brad Garrett. Then like a couple years later to have a duet with the two of them together is fantastic. Like that was another one of those things that when I first heard it, because I'm, when you listen to these all the time, you hear those I'm just like, I hear those recognizable voices like, oh, it's good. This is, it's a familiar voice, and then to hear them both used so well in that song. Sorry, I jumped ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, please go ahead.
Please cut in, Lou. Go ahead and tell us about your favorite scenes.
Well, I think it's got to be Mother Knows Best. You hit on it earlier, Vanessa, and you talked a little bit about Donna Murphy, but and this will be one of several hot takes I'm going to have on this movie. I think Mother Gothel is one of the best villains in the Disney canon. I think she's the best princess villain since Ursula. I would put her up in the top 5. And what I love about her is that you're right, Vanessa. She's the only villain that I think uses passive aggression as a weapon. Like that's her big deal, is like, just, but it's a great song. And she is like, you can tell that Donna Murphy's having a blast doing it. And it's something, even on the soundtrack, you don't have to see the animation because she's so expressive in her delivery of it that it works. It's not as showy as, like a Poor Unfortunate Souls or, anything like that, but she performs the hell out of it. And I adore it. I love it. So there we go. First hot take of the pod.
Donna?
Well, I love the lantern scene and all of the fun that she has leading up to that. But since that one's already taken, any moment with Pascal. I love that little comedian.
Pascal.
Favorite sidekick.
At pet stores and at zoos now, I'm like, oh, let's look at the chameleons. Oh, look, it's a little Pascal. I'm that person now.
That's awesome. And, to piggyback off of that, the scene I was going to say seems, obvious, I guess, but I love the opening credits song. I love When Will My Life Begin, because it takes you through this like journey of her day, and then like halfway through the song she's like, and it's 8 a.m. or whatever. It's so perfect. It's so great to establish that character, establish that small world that exists in her tower, and how much it's opened throughout the movie. I think it's just a great setup song. It's not, it's no, I wouldn't put it up there with like Belle as far as just opening up a movie. Just,
she's in one room. She doesn't have the big adventure in the great white whatever.
Oh, totally. Somewhere. Absolutely. But it still does a very good job of setting up the story, setting up the fact that she has read all these books over and over again, has painted these walls every which way she could. And you just feel for her right at the beginning. It's a good way of just grabbing and pulling at your heartstrings, because you're just like, this poor girl, like, what's she doing? Like, you can't just keep her locked up in here.
Yeah. Well, and you bring up a point, Craig, which is one of the things I think when people talk about Tangled, or you talk about one of the things that maybe I think it doesn't get its due is its soundtrack is. I think it's a lot different than the other Princesses one. It's not a Broadway style. It's more of a pop soundtrack, really. Yeah. Especially that opening is, you've got the acoustic guitar instead of this big showy number, and most of the numbers are like that. And so I think that's one of the reasons that I don't know if this gets talked about as much, because it doesn't have that huge, like, epic song, like the song that most Disney princess movies.
No, Let It Go.
No, Let It Go. No, Where How Far I'll Go. No,
it has I See the Light though.
It does, but that's kind of more of a. That's a ballad. It's not a big, again, it's not a big showy number either. It's not something like kids are going to be belting out, It's
very, very true.
I bet we know some kids that do that.
But I will say, to me, the analogy that I made is like, it's because I think another hot take coming. I think it's the most consistent soundtrack, where I could make an argument that those other musicals have songs that don't work as well. And I think this has a soundtrack that every song works, just none of them are like, it's a great album without like a major hit single, whereas I think some of the other ones have big hits on them, but they might also have a couple of stinkers. Looking at Your Direction, Frozen. But anyway, I have unresolved troll issues, but that's fine.
I like that song. I just enjoy that song.
Issues.
But you make a good point, because in interviews and things, when Alan Menken was asked about, because of course he's the king of all Disney now, when Alan Menken was asked about what he was thinking about with the musical score, he focused it on 60s rock. And so that's where a lot of that acoustic comes in, kind of that like Monkees vibe that you get every now and then throughout the soundtrack. So really good hot take there, Lou.
Thank you.
I
got more. Keep them coming.
Absolutely, and we will.
I give
One thing
up.
that I like to sprinkle in. One thing I like to sprinkle in as we go. It's always fun to look at the people that were up for the roles or considered for the roles as a good way to talk about ultimately how the film turned out. And one of the interesting ones is that both Kristen Bell and Idina Menzel auditioned for this role. So. Real interesting there, because they would, of course, make their mark in Frozen a bit later on.
Oh, they went on to do something good. That's good.
Good for them.
Adele Dazeem went on to be in Frozen. That joke never gets old.
So here's a funny. So then I'll posit an alternate. I'll take that. I'll extrapolate that, because the writer for Tangled is Dan Fogelman, who would later go on and be the creator of This Is Us, which Mandy Moore stars on. So in a world where Kristen Bell is Rapunzel, does that mean we get her in This Is Us and Mandy Moore in The Good Place? I don't know.
Maybe.
Actually, when I was doing some research prior to this, back to Mandy Moore, I thought I was trying to find the clip again, but she was kind of in a career. She didn't know if she was going to be continue being an actress prior to this. And it kind of, re-energized her career, which now, hello, This Is Us and everything, else. But it was interesting, she thought that her days as a pop star were kind of over, and she didn't know, she was going to do anything in the business again. And well, she has made quite a run of it, shall we say.
Yeah. The other name on the list, by the way, was Princess Amidala herself. Natalie Portman was on the list for potentially up for Rapunzel, and actually they used her audition as one of the pencil tests for Tangled to begin with. So just interesting alternate realities that could be out there of all these different actors playing these roles. But let's talk in particular about that lantern scene, because all of us have talked about it a little bit, but let's actually focus in and talk about what makes that scene so marvelous. And for me, it is the graphics, the use of the 3D animation. This is truly Now, granted, they also used it in Chicken Little and in Meet the Robinsons, but this is the first Disney princess movie that utilized 3D animation as opposed to 2D. What are your thoughts, Lou? I'll throw it to you. Talk about that particular scene and why you think that has such an impact on the rest of the movie, or at least on the memory of the folks that have seen it.
Well, it's just such a gorgeous visual image that can stick with you. And good films are all about creating really memorable moments. And I think they were to go back to The Godfather. James Caan had talked about, if a movie has 4 or 5 good moments in it, you've got a great film on because it's something people remember. And I think it's just the fact that it's such a beautiful visual combined with these two characters who are very earnest. And that's the other thing I think that I love about this movie is the characters. It's not cynical. They're very likable, lovable characters, falling in love in earnest. And it's not, there's not it makes sense. It doesn't feel shoehorned, and it's just paired with a really lovely song. And I think it's just all of those things. It's a great culmination of everything that the movie had worked towards.
Absolutely. Donna, do you have any other additional thoughts there?
I love all the color that they use. I don't know. It's just visually just beautiful. It draws you in. It's got the lovely song going, and they've been building up to it the whole movie. Just you want to see the floating lights.
Absolutely.
Floating lanterns.
Yeah, and they do tease it.
They tease it the whole way through. I mean, from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a cool visual, and of course, like now they've got like you were just there. Is the photo pass experience with the lantern? Is that still a thing over by the Tangled bathroom in the parks? Do you know?
There was nothing when we were.
Yeah, well, I didn't see it when we were there. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was in March when I was last there. They had a long line for it.
I got you.
Must
Well,
have missed
Vanessa, what are your thoughts on that scene in particular?
Well, what I really liked about that scene was watching it the second time is if you notice the lantern that kind of falls into her hands is the one her parents send off. It's the only one with that sun symbol on it. And then if you look at the movie in detail, you start to notice those nuances throughout the film. For example, Mother Gothel, when she's always saying, "Oh, I love you," and she's kissing Rapunzel, but if you really look, she's only saying it to the hair or kissing her hair. It's never Rapunzel herself.
Oh,
you
my
see her
gosh.
patting her, she's always patting her hair. Go back and watch it again.
Oh, wow.
And you'll see that
shoot.
her obsession is with the hair, not Rapunzel herself. And it's just really interesting that, I talked a little bit about Maximus, that they put so many like subtle details in throughout the film that I didn't even notice the first time. The second time, I was aware of them, and it was really neat to see that kind of level of thought into what is just mostly just for a kid's film.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Brett?
I think if we go back to the lantern scene, the way the lantern scene starts with her mother and father, who actually are non-speaking roles in this film,
isn't that
which
interesting?
Is rather amazing. What transpires between both of them, and then the feeling that is conveyed through animation is just astounding. I mean, it's loss, it's hope, it's so many things, so that starts the moment. And and we know the story, unless you got the library copy. You kind of but for everyone else, when you see it the next time, you do see you know the backstory, and you know how sad that would be, but from Rapunzel's point of view, she just wants to see. She doesn't understand the significance. She kind of goes, isn't that a coincidence? But she doesn't understand the significance. And then that moment, which starts so sweetly and sad, but yet with hope, it starts with, her parents doing the first lantern. And then as, residual goosebumps. And then when you see the entire kingdom, and then they just start to float, and then, masses of them, so that's such a gorgeous moment that actually we do get to see in, again, going to the parks. It was part of Disneyland's 65th anniversary. The fireworks and projections along Main Street. That was a moment there, and it's been a moment in the projections in the Magic Kingdom for a while. For a while too. A number of shows. So it's just a special moment.
It is. It's a very beautiful moment.
I blame Tangled for all these Lantern Festival events that are like happening all the time.
Does that even work? Can you do that in real life?
Yeah, they do. They do. There's one in St. Louis every November now, and like I'm dying to go just because this movie makes it seem so awesome.
Yeah, so you make it seem like it's such a negative thing. I blame Tangled for this, and then you're like, but I totally want to go.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like I think they're the reason why everybody wants to go out with the lantern and like. If I go, I'll be singing.
It's like a part of weddings, I think.
Oh, I don't know.
If not, they will be soon because this movie's like 8 years old now. So when all of these kids grow up, these kids who are raised on them, like that's going to be a thing.
So let's talk about this new Disney wave. And this is I'm throwing the softball to Lou on this one because he has been talking about this since we mentioned that we wanted to talk about Tangled. But in this new wave of Disney animation that I would say is just going along extremely well, we have this new crop of Disney princesses. We've got Tiana, Rapunzel, Anna and Elsa, and Moana. Of those, where would you rank Rapunzel? And I'll go to Lou first.
I think you have to. For me, I think you rank her at the top. I don't know if I can say number one because as a character, I love the character of Moana very much, and I like all of those characters. Actually, I think you could look at all of those and they're really great. But where I give maybe to cop out a little bit, where I give Rapunzel credit is she's kind of that first wave. Now correct me on my timeline. If Princess of the Frog comes out the year after this, then, or the year before it, but I
believe it was the year before it, but I'll double check that.
Okay, so they're like nearing. But to me, what I like about what Rapunzel does and what those two do, because I love that movie too, is it opens that door for the new kind of Disney princess who doesn't need rescuing and in fact actually rescues the prince because. Flynn comes into her tower, but she uses Flynn to get out of the tower. She outsmarts him. She rescues him later in the movie. She's maybe a little perceived as maybe a little bubblier than the other princesses, but I think she's just as smart. And I think that's one of the more refreshing things. And it's that new wave of princesses who don't necessarily need saving and can do it on their own. She's new to the world, but she's not easily manipulated, and she's able to outsmart people. And that's what I really like about her. I think it's a more well-rounded character, honestly, than either of the two Frozen princesses. And I think it's right in line with Moana.
All right. And yes, Princess and the Frog came out in 2009. And then this came out in 2010. But Donna, what's your ranking of the modern day Disney princesses?
That's a really tough one. Because I feel like Tiana and Rapunzel kind of got swept under the carpet. I don't feel like they got
just trapped in the huge snowball, avalanche, whatever ice thing you want to say about Frozen.
They were left behind, it feels like. Yeah.
But they don't have to be left behind in your heart.
Because Frozen's what, 2012?
Yeah, Frozen was 2012 or 2013. 2012, right?
2012. So like 2 years after this, they're just
they're forgotten.
This should be by memory by now.
2013. It was 2013, yeah. But Vanessa, do you want to take a crack at ranking these modern day princesses? No.
Who I didn't hear who you were talking to.
You.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, I don't want to. This is this is really challenging. I actually think I liked Princess and the Frog better as a movie. At the time I liked it better than Tangled. I don't know, but I do really like. I think. Let me say this. I think Rapunzel's the most relatable character, at least for me. That scene where she's like just gotten out of the tower and she's like, "Oh, I'm so excited. What have I done? I'm a horrible person." Like that, like duality. I think all probably young women feel a little bit as they're leaving the nest, and there's just a lot of moments like that are you young me I can relate to. So I very much appreciate the movie. I will not rank the princesses though because they're all great.
I think that's
didn't
a
know
smart
if
idea.
you were going to bite on this.
Oh, well. Okay.
Brett?
Well, I am extremely happy that they have, shall we say, broadened the scope of Disney princess dumb. But Rapunzel is, who wrote the original story? I mean, it's like
It's
it
a
was
Grimm
the
fairy
only.
tale, isn't it?
It was the only. Yeah, I think that's right. Oh wow, that's good. I think it's really the only. Wasn't it like the only princess story that was, if you were talking about the Brothers Grimm, it's the last of like the classic princesses that Disney had yet to cover in a film. I believe the others are creations sort of after the fact and not are original. Are they original stories?
Most of them are based on some kind of myth.
Frozen's
Well, Frozen
loosely,
is,
but it's so far removed that you might as well. It might as well be.
Rapunzel is definitely in
Yes.
the canon of classic literature characters, at least storybook sort of characters. So since we're ranking them. Since she is legitimately the only princess in there other than Elsa, I'm going to put her as number one because she's a real princess.
Is Tiana not a real princess? I mean, she's in.
She married it. She married it.
Oh, she married into the.
What did Cinderella
loyalty.
do? Did Cinderella?
She married
She marries into it. So Snow White.
Oh well, yeah.
Yeah,
snaps to you.
Right.
Okay. No,
but I think that is also.
Excuse me. I believe the question was modern princesses. Thank you.
Well, Tiana's a modern princess.
For sure.
Yes, I know, but she was a newer story.
Whatever.
They're all wonderful.
Whatever.
And you know what I would say? It's not about ratings. It's not about who's number one. It's about they're all a family, which we get to see in Wreck-It Ralph too. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Which
you
we
do.
can't wait for.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I can't wait for.
Let's I've kept all of you longer than I promised I would. Let's start to wrap this up a bit. I know Lou, you may have some closing thoughts though that we haven't gotten to. So anything else you want to mention about this particular film?
Well, yeah, I think to reiterate what has been said, where I'll start is that it is one of the things that I think makes this movie great is that it does feel like a classic Disney princess movie, but has a genuine modern spin on it. In the fact that Rapunzel is a hero in her own right and is a more progressive take on a princess, but it still has that classic feel to it. The music is great. To me, I think Belle to Belle, no pun intended there. I think if you were to put everything together and create like some robotic aggregate score of a movie, I think this is maybe the best Disney princess movie since Beauty and the Beast, and I think it's better, and I even think it's better than Little Mermaid. and because I think that it's funnier than most of the Disney princess movies. It has a better villain than most of the Disney princess movies. It has a more modern take than a lot of the previous Disney princess movies, not including the modern era. It's one of the most gorgeously animated movies that they've ever done. It's got one of the best sidekicks. It's got everything you need, but that one major hit. If it had like a centerpiece musical number, I think it would be hands down the best of all time. But
It's just funny because they had a musical artist as Rapunzel.
Right.
I think.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But that's, to me, that's the only thing that it's missing. But I would put its soundtrack up against any of the other princess soundtracks. I think it's an underrated movie. And one of the things I looked up talking about this, and I remember this when it came out, was that a lot of the marketing to this movie was surrounding Flynn and not Rapunzel. Is like they were trying to market this, which is why it's called Tangled and not Rapunzel, is that Princess and the Frog didn't do as well as it could have. And so Disney got really scared about having princess in the title, because they thought boys wouldn't go see it. And so they call it Tangled, which is why Frozen is called Frozen and not Ice Princess or whatever. And I think that's part of the reason it gets forgotten, is because I don't know if it was really celebrated as the princess movie that it is, but it is, and it's great. But boys should see it too, because it's fun and they would like it. So anyway, it's great. Go see it.
I want to see, does Lou have a Tangled tattoo? Because with that kind of conviction, I anticipate that you have one somewhere.
It's just across your chest, right?
Yeah,
like Star Wars.
It's a frying pan.
When you take that off, it just says Tangled.
Yeah, no. For me, I champion it more because, Frozen stuff is everywhere, and even Moana stuff is everywhere. No disrespect to those movies; they're great.
Rapunzel stuff was everywhere too.
Not as much though. I don't think it was.
Well, you weren't really shopping back when Rapunzel came out, but just think, like 4 years after Rapunzel, there was still a ton of Rapunzel.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
She's gone now.
I don't think it was
you won't find it
ubiquitous as like Frozen stuff was.
She
Frozen
only gets a bathroom in Magic Kingdom.
Yeah. Exactly. But
attraction, bathroom.
Anyway.
Is there a hierarchy there?
Exactly. We can't give you a ride, Rapunzel, but here's a toilet.
Oh, but it's a great one.
They are very nice. They're very nice.
Okay.
Very nice.
You just
Donna,
ended up in the toilet. Oh gosh.
Did you have any closing thoughts?
Well, I've always had a question about why Mother Gothel chose to tell Rapunzel her actual birthday. Like, I feel like if she had never told her that, she would have never thought the lanterns were for her, and she would have never gotten out of the castle to see them. So Mother Gothel's downfall is the one thing she told the truth about was her birthday. Why do that?
And she's an evil villain who goes tall, goes up, evil, all Disney evil people that go up into, like a tower or the top of a mountain or something like that, they end up dead. Think about it. Mm-hmm. Gaston, Snow White's witch. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Check. Never.
Absolutely.
Oh, well. Just a thought.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Brett, why don't we go to you with some closing thoughts?
This is just I like it better than Beauty and the Beast because I have Beauty and the Beast issues. But anyway, I just think it's just beautiful. The music's wonderful. The voice casting is amazing. And Donna Murphy is now one of my favorite Disney villains. I kind of like Yzma. Yeah. Anyway, that's a tale for another time. But yeah, she's just fantastic. And it's just amazing. I love this film, and it was so much fun to watch it again in preparation for this get-together.
Vanessa?
I loved the film, and it's one I think I actually probably should buy. I haven't bought it yet. I didn't. I
just took the plunge. I was like, you know what? It's on sale right now on Amazon.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, direct. So I just jumped on that.
it's a should buy. I'm silly for renting it in the past. I should just buy it, but it was really good. I'm glad we picked it. And also, I do think since we all seem to be big fans of Mother Gothel, I do think on one of these episodes we need to rank our Disney villains. Who's worse?
A Disney villain bracket.
I will save them.
Ooh,
that sounds like a Lou challenge right there.
That could be Disney, we could put Disney villains. I've already made a Disney song bracket that's going to make you cry, but we can do Disney villains. Yeah, and just also one last thing. We did in prep for this podcast. We did manage to watch a little bit of the season 2 of Tangled the series, and I gotta say I thought it was pretty good. It was it had again that kind of adventurous spirit to it, but it was fun. And both Zachary Levi and Mandy Moore are back in it. It doesn't have the depth of animation as the film does, but you can't replicate that. I think even with Disney money, you can't do that.
$260 million film budget, probably can't.
But it was really nicely done, and it was fun.
Yeah.
And Eden Espinosa is in it, and Jeremy. What's his name?
Jeremy.
The guy from Newsies.
Like that.
The guy from Newsies.
Yeah.
Oh, the guy that's on Supergirl as well. I still don't know his name.
Television money.
Absolutely.
It's a trap.
Absolutely. So my last thing I want to say about this is, I've been doing a lot of research into Disney past, and this is one of the last films that Michael Eisner greenlit before he was outed from the Disney company. So as time goes on, I think we can start to look back and realize that Eisner did still make some good decisions in the early 2000s, as opposed to he kind of gets the short end of the stick as far as talking about him now, because obviously Iger came in right away and bought Pixar and everything else, and everything else is history from there. But probably need to give a little bit of credit for Tangled to Michael Eisner.
Absolutely give Michael Eisner credit. My gosh, he took the company from something that was going to go be broken apart for piecemeal, to a powerhouse in the mid 80s to 90s to early 2000s. So without Michael Eisner, you wouldn't have the company you have now.
Absolutely.
Including Tangled.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for being a part of the show. I know we're going a little bit long, but I do want to mention a couple of things coming up. First of all, we are going to finish out our summer bonus episodes, and we might continue them into the fall, but at least we're finishing out the summer portion of the bonus episodes. I am going to sit down with Anna, and we're going to talk to Mary Kate and Jake Smith about bringing kids to Disney World. And we talked a little bit about that with Lou and Donna now, but we're going to dive deep into tips and tricks and everything you need to know about taking a kid to Disney World, because they have taken multiple children to Disney World multiple times. So excited for that conversation. Also, we have a really cool opportunity coming up. If you are in the Springfield, Illinois area, on August 7th, we are doing a screening of Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's our first front row flick for the Hoagland Center for the Arts. If you come on down, it's $8 for a ticket. You can get in at about 6:30. We're going to have some trivia and have some fun before the movie. We're going to watch the movie and then record the discussion afterwards, and that'll go into our podcast on Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is a film that I've been dying to do as a podcast. I'm so glad that this was our first pick for this new Front Row Flicks series that we hope to continue at the Hoagland, but we need your support to be able to do that. So please come out on August 7th and watch a really awesome movie. Watch some Nazis get their faces melted off. It's the best. It's the best, for sure.
It's a night.
It's a night, for sure. And as far as our regular episodes of Beyond the Mouse, I don't know what the future holds quite yet. I don't know what movie we'll be tackling next. We have a listener who's been dying to get on, and she was bugging me about it today, right before we went on. So maybe I'll talk to Nicole and see what she might want to do with Brett and Vanessa and I, and we'll kind of go from there and see what we do next. And who knows what'll be coming next in Disney-dom. We have a lot of trips planned. Brett's in the middle of maybe planning a trip. She wanted to do Pollyanna. That's hilarious. I am going to be going on my trip in September. Just so much Disney going on, which is wonderful. But for everything that is not Disney, Lou, do you know all the plugs? Can you give them the plugs for us?
Sure. You can find us online at Front Row Reviews with a Z. You can go to our website, www.thefrontrowmoviereviews.com, where some exciting stuff's going to be happening in the hopefully near future. So bookmark our page, keep going back there. You'll find all our different podcasts. And also find us on Facebook, the Front Row Network, where you'll get updates on all that sorts of stuff. A lot of cool stuff is happening in the next month. We are expanding, we're doing lots of new stuff. So all of your different stuff. We just had a flashback of Good Morning Vietnam. So you'll look forward to another flashbacks next month. I'm not sure what Scott's doing, but I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun. My next episode of Guilty Pleasures should be dropping within the next week. The August episode is The Crush. It's already in the can.
Nice.
It's hilarious. Sarah joins me on that one, and we have a first timer. Courtney Enlow from Sci-Fi Fangirls joins us, and she's hysterical. The two of them talk a lot, and I just try not to get myself in trouble with a movie that involves a 16-year-old girl being a stalker. But it's a lot of fun. And there's all sorts of cool stuff coming up. So make sure you find us on any of those different venues, but also rate and review us. Give us a 5-star review on both the Front Rows feed and on the Beyond the Mouse feed, and find all of our different podcasts and tell your friends. And if you're watching us on YouTube tonight, thanks for joining us, and comment, subscribe, so you can know the next time we're doing live stuff.
Absolutely. And you failed to mention that you did Kingdom of the Crystal Skull as your guilty pleasure in July. It was so funny. It was a hilarious, I mean, you kind of want like Spielberg and Lucas to listen to it just so they can understand the pain that they put us through.
There was so much
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So it's a great appetizer to coming to the Front Row Flick at the Hoagland on August 7th. But well, thanks guys. It's been a lot of fun, and happy to wrap up another Beyond the Mouse. So with all that, I am Craig McFarland. Brett, go next.
Hi, I am Brett. Thank you.
Goodbye, I'm Vanessa.
Oh, sorry, goodbye. Sorry, hello. Bookend that. Thank you for joining us.
I'm Lou, and Tangled still the best.
And I'm Donna.
And we will see you real soon.
I told you I'm a closer.
Apparently not a very good one. No coffee for you, Brett.
It's not coffee. All right.